I mean, the big news coming out of Comic-Con is sort of like Marvel either righting the ship or sort of clarifying the trajectory of the ship, because the last episode that we did before the break, we talked about how Marvel was at this real crossroads. They had by their standards some stinkers in a row, and kind of stinkers in different senses, like financially not at what they were used to, critically panned, and also just like the worst thing for Marvel is when a movie just doesn't give them the possibility to like spawn other movies, because their superpower, if the MCU has a superpower, it's self-regeneration,
franchising franchises
exactly.
and spin-offs
franchises on
and
franchises. Yes. I mean, that's why they did the multiverse. One of the most cynical plot devices in any franchise ever is because the multiverse gave them the power to just constantly like wipe slates clean and ignore plot points and just replicate their thing over and over and over again without any worry about sort of like consistency or this and that. And it gave them the ability to like start over when they like mess up with Fantastic Four or whatever, this and that. So going into Comic-Con, there was big question marks, because everyone knew Deadpool and Wolverine was going to be big, but the next Avengers movie, which is supposed to start filming in March for a 2026 release, they had just fired the most recent writer. There was no director assigned to it. They had parted ways with Jonathan Majors, who's supposed to be the big villain. So there was, who knew what was next for Marvel. And then sure enough, they had it all too big to fail style. They had it all planned out, and they come out in a big way at this Comic-Con. They announced that the Russo brothers, who are their most bankable directors, that's the guys that directed all the Captain Americas and the two most profitable Avengers movies, and I think are like the most profitable directors of all time, just off the back of...
more than James Cameron?
I believe so, off the
That's
back
crazy,
of
man.
Endgame and Infinity Wars. I think
Wow.
they just edge out.
Damn.
I don't know. It would either be them or Cameron, right?
I
read
don't
something
know.
that they're the most profitable, but like Cameron has both Avatars and Titanic. It's got to be neck and neck. But
Whatever.
it's
I
either
hear
it's
you.
those two. So they bring the Russo brothers back, and then the big thing that everyone knows about by now is Dr. Doom is going to be the new big villain. The guy, mostly
Kang.
the Fantastic Four villain, is going to be the big new villain of the Avengers. Both the next two Avengers. The one in 2026 is now called Doomsday, and then the one in 2027 has always been called Secret Wars. And then who is going to be playing Dr. Doom? That was the big reveal. They brought out a bunch of Dr. Doom looking guys, and then one stepped forward and took off his mask.
Syrian Hines.
It was Syrian Hines. You hear like one person.
Me.
Woo!
Yes! Fuck yeah, smart casting. He's gonna nail it.
Great casting. No, it was Robert.
Smart.
It was Robert Downey Jr.
Robert
It was
Downey
Iron
Jr.
Man.
Okay.
It was fucking Iron Man. So Marvel just said, "What makes money? Do that."
Mm-hmm. Not just that, Brett.
Yeah.
Apparently, they backed up the money truck. The Russo brothers are getting paid $80 million for the two films.
Great.
And Robert Downey Jr., according to reports, is being paid substantially more than that to come back and
I love the
Dr.
phrase.
Doom.
I love the phrase significantly more than 80 million.
Significantly more. for two movies. And
Yeah.
and then he's going to get his own, not just the beautiful trailer. He has like a trailer park. It's like when they built the Green Zone in Iraq after we invaded Baghdad. Just like a fucking city they're going to build for Robert Downey Jr.
Probably the same contractor.
Probably,
that used for Baghdad.
Halliburton's going to fucking do the Marvel.
Trailer encampment is the
trailer
phrase.
encampment. And he's getting planes everywhere,
Private jet
obviously.
travel, dedicated security.
He's getting the whole fucking works for $1 bajillion and points, probably.
And also,
right? Yeah.
this is for what? 2 weeks at Pinewood Studios.
That's what I was going to say. First of all, Dr. Doom, not that I'm like the comic expert, from what I've read, folks, he just wears his mask the whole entire time. Like, who knows how much Robert Downey Jr. is even going to have to be there.
Yeah.
And then B, it's like, they don't film on sets. He just goes into the big room.
Yeah.
They golf cart him from his Halliburton-esque encampment to the green screen room. He puts on his Dr. Doom mask. He says the lines. alter the voice in post, and he collects $120 million
Great.
before they even get to the part where the points happen. I'm sure he gets 1% or 0.001% of the back end, and that's $1 trillion.
That was Ciarán Hinds money. You stole it from Hinds,
asshole.
That's Hinds money.
That'd be so cool if they made all that stink and then Ciarán Hinds came out. That'd have been the best. But they didn't. It was Robert Downey Jr. So a lot of people, it seems Marvel fans even, a lot of people bemoaning this choice, especially some of the comic book nerds, losers, lovers on the internet.
You guys run the world.
The comic, yeah. Sorry, whatever.
We can be mean.
Look. Here's facts. Number one, what I say doesn't matter. And number two, comic books are for children. So a lot of people hate this choice, Brett.
Yeah.
But can I just I have to say something I'm going to kind of zag.
Oh, you like this choice?
No, it's not that. It's not about I I love it. No, I think what I want to say is I think business wise, a lot of people are saying, oh, this is a step backwards. They're just going back to what works. But after everything that's happened between Endgame and Deadpool and Wolverine, that whole entire chunk, everything, was a mess. And I kind of want to give Feige and Marvel a bit of a pass. All right, here's my bit of a pass for the fuck ups in phase 4 at the end and 5 or whatever the hell. Up until Endgame, when Endgame came out, everybody critically and culturally was impressed that Marvel was able to take, 20 movies and bring them through a whole entire cohesive story, and then, as ham-fisted as it might have seemed in Endgame, excitingly bring all of those narrative strands to an end. And it was a very impressive theatrical concept that really worked financially. And so it's been really weird in the 4 years after that. Besides that Spider-Man movie that came out right after Endgame, everything kind of stunk. But you know what? I bet it had to do with a couple things that were outside of sort of Marvel's control. A, the way that COVID shook the entertainment industry, and the way that COVID probably shook Disney's eyes from theatrical to streaming. And they put a huge emphasis on Disney Plus. They went hard with the WandaVision, and then they overdid it with all of the different Marvel TV shows, just like Star Wars did, and that got way too convoluted. They got too deep into streaming,
and same with their animated division. I mean, that's what happened with Pixar. That would happen with Disney Animation,
and it also had to do with Chapek leaving and then bringing Iger back, and then Bob Iger having to right the ship, and Iger comes back, and is it the multiverse was hot for a second? Basically, what I'm saying is, as we know, because we work in the industry in a smaller but the same industry in a smaller capacity, it's been a bad 3 or 4 years. So I'm not surprised that the creative, quote unquote, results have been lackluster for Disney. I feel like this Deadpool and Wolverine moment, they got the acquisition for 20th Century Fox in 2019. They finally turned it into something very valuable with Deadpool and Wolverine. And you know what? They went back to the fucking and they brought Robert Downey Jr. back and the Russo brothers back. I bet it makes everybody feel a lot safer, makes the investors feel safer.
That's what it is.
I bet it is going to yield financial results, and I bet it's also going to bring the audience back to Marvel. I think if they went, and think about the Kang thing. I think the Kang thing would have worked. I think Jonathan Majors, before he before we knew about what happened with him privately and his criminal domestic allegations, whatever that was all about, I think the Kang thing was going to work. I think that was going to be good. Jonathan Majors was a pretty impactful screen presence, and I bet he kind of would have had the star power if he had the opportunity, but that wasn't in the cards. So I kind of feel like if I was Feige and I'm looking, at all my options, I kind of feel like, though it's safe for a reason, and also it's going to work. It's like why Kamala's going to pick Josh Shapiro tomorrow, because it's safe, but it's going to work. It's just, it's the centrist option because they need to win. And that's sort of what Feige did with the doomsday thing.
I totally understand it as a business decision, as a financial decision, which is the only decision that they're making now. And that's why we talked about earlier, the pleasure of M. Night Shyamalan is here you have a guy who is just thinking of good movies and making them like the old days. But when it comes to Disney there and Marvel, there is just too much money at stake. And so the only determining factor is financial. What is going to get butts in seats? What is going to sell tickets? And that is always, it's the same decision that Pixar made with Inside Out 2. We've had a couple stinkers in a row. Oh no. What was our last like truly bankable hit? Let's do a sequel to that. And sure enough, it kills. So Marvel is making the same kind of safe financial decisions by bringing the Russo brothers back, bringing back Robert Downey Jr. And and they know they can. The thing is, they know they can piss off the nerds because the nerds are still going to come see the movie come hell or high water. Having Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom just gives them such a big marketing angle.
Yeah,
They're going to shove this thing down everyone's throats.
it's a good
Everyone's going to
idea.
go see it. It's going to make a shit ton of money. The problem with all of this is the problem that I had with Deadpool and Wolverine, if we can start digging into that, which is at this point, we are no longer watching movies. Marvel is not making movies. Marvel is making financial wagers for a franchise that should have reached its sort of natural end by now. It
It
should
did.
have reached the natural sort of lifespan, and it did. But Marvel is the franchise that refuses to die, that refuses to let sort of like the conclusion of its narrative be the conclusion of its franchise. And so we are now in this awkward afterlife where Marvel is pulling every trick out of the bag possible, bringing back Robert Downey Jr. with Deadpool and Wolverine, trying to like monetize a like satire of themselves. It's like they're pulling every sort of trick out of the bag to keep the thing to
And
keep
bringing
the machine
Wolverine back
going.
to Hugh
Bringing
Jackman's
Wolverine back to
Wolverine.
life,
Yeah,
yes.
right.
Bringing characters back to life, utilizing the multiverse to do whatever the fuck they want. But the goal right now is to just keep this money train rolling for as long as possible. And I totally get it financially. I mean, why wouldn't you do that if you were Disney? This thing is making more money than God. But creatively, as someone who goes to the movies, man, it sucks.
Absolutely.
It fucking sucks.
But like you're saying, Brett, and Deadpool and Wolverine is the proof in the pudding.
Yes.
There's no difference between the product and the financial equation anymore.
Yep. And let's talk about Deadpool and Wolverine now, because for a mainstream comic book movie that had the sixth biggest opening of all time, it is hard to make sense of this movie, particularly for the first like 30 minutes, because it is just this like onslaught, this barrage of Marvel references and industry in jokes and multiverse nonsense and Ryan Reynolds jokes, which are just like the shape of a joke without a punchline. It's just like the sound of Ryan Reynolds like indicating that he's making a joke, but then like if you think about it for a second, you're like, what was the joke? Like, what's the joke in the joke though? It's not. There's no joke. It's just Ryan Reynolds doing Ryan Reynolds shtick. And so you were just and then Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and cameos, and you were just hit with this like barrage, this endless fucking barrage of this shit for the first 30 minutes, for the entire movie. But for the first like 30 minutes, I was like, what? I was like trying to get a breath in, and I was like, what is this movie? Like, what is happening? What am I watching? What is any of this? And then when you finally come up for air, you realize like the point is the barrage. This is a movie that's trying to like bludgeon you into submission. It is trying to like quickly and ruthlessly imitate some sort of big meta in-joke cultural moment that it thinks it is happening. And if you're not like laughing at it, it's because you don't get it. But when in fact, there's nothing to get here. There's no joke to the jokes. There is just like the competition of like laughing first and loudest at all the references. And like I said, there was a group of people at my screening that fell hook, line, and sinker that were more than happy to just bellow with deep laughs at all the references to the Disney Fox merger and like the weird like Mad Max references that had no joke to them, that were just an empty reference.
Weird.
At the end of the day though, this is a movie. The snake has like fully eaten its own tail. The MCU has like collapsed in on itself. This is a movie about the perpetuation of the MCU. It's a movie that kind of admits to you that the MCU is in crisis and is trying to find a way forward, but the movie represents what the MCU does as a whole, which it monetizes everything. It monetizes the backlash to itself. It monetizes satire of itself. It monetizes its inversion. It monetizes the characters that it has discarded along the way because they weren't profitable, and now it's bringing them back as cameos. This movie is a testament to Marvel's ability to monetize every inch of its IP, every little sliver of its IP, including the backlash and the reaction to its IP. This movie is like a testament to corporate power, and it's disguised as like a punk satire, but the fact that it's Marvel's punk satire of itself just reinforces the corporate hegemony of it all. This is not a movie. This is a like corporation refusing to die in front of you for 2 hours, and it's all hosted by the very affable Ryan Reynolds. This is a problem, this movie, if this is the future of movies and the future of the most profitable movies that we're going to be watching. And if you're still invested, and I know we're trying to go easy on the audience here, Joe, but I just have to say, if you are, I'm not talking about kids, if you're an adult who is still invested in the MCU at this point, you're not a nerd. I know, like, you go to Comic-Con and you feel like, oh, all the nerds are together. You're not nerds. You are the power structure. You are, and if you're not profiting from the power structure, but you're complicit in endorsing it, like, at all costs, then you're just a corporate stooge. You're not a nerd. You're mainstream. You're like the big thing. You're the main thing. Nerds are people who search out things. They look for obscurities because they're not getting what they want from the mainstream. You're not nerds. You're stooges. You're the guys at the corporate retreat clapping along to the corporate video. And if Deadpool and Wolverine is anything, if I could put it in any genre, it's not a comic book movie. Deadpool and Wolverine are those, like, you know when you go to a corporate retreat and the company has filmed a skit that it plays for everybody, and it's doing in-jokes about like, and if Sandra from HR was here, here's what she would say. That's what Deadpool and Wolverine felt like. It felt like the video they would show. It's like they got Ryan and Hugh to do like a fun video for the Marvel corporate retreat, except they released it on 5,000 screens and it made more money than God. But this never at any point feels like a movie. It feels like we are at some weird sort of like alternate universe, like corporate celebration of itself.
It's like
and its refusal to die.
We went to the upfronts.
We went to the upfronts.
And it was like Kimmel was hosting the upfronts, and he was like negging the execs.
Exactly what this is.
Right.
This is what Marvel, this should have been 20 minutes and it should have been shown at the upfronts. This should not have been screened for audiences. Audiences deserve story and character, and they deserve like here's what I would have loved. Hey, what if Deadpool and Wolverine go on a fun quest together?
Would have loved it.
Wouldn't that be great?
I obviously like Wolverine, okay? Because I like X-Men,
love Wolverine,
and I love Hugh Jackman, and I like the character Wolverine, and I love Logan, and like I love Hugh Jackman, I love Wolverine. I even kind of like Deadpool. Like, I don't like love Deadpool, but I saw Deadpool 1 and I saw Deadpool 2, and Deadpool 1, it made me laugh a bunch of times, and Deadpool 2, it was all right. Deadpool's the merc with the mouth. He's a funny guy. If they just went on a adventure,
right,
and they had to like save something normal, and they did like more buddy cop stuff, but the whole entire time, instead of them doing the buddy cop movie, they're like explaining the strains of time and matter in the Marvel universe and the machinations of the 2019 merger of 20th Century Fox and Disney. I just wanted to see Deadpool and Wolverine like pull some stunts and like go to a bar and like shoot some bad guys and like run around New York or pick a fun spot or locale. I'm not against, like, comic book movies are going to happen, and they're going to make a lot of money, and I'm okay with living in that world. I've liked a couple comic book movies very much in my day. But like, I don't know, like Deadpool and Wolverine was just such an unfun watch, not because of the characters necessarily, but because they were forced to slog through this weird meta joke that also was working to set up franchises and explain people and timelines. It's just like, can Deadpool and Wolverine just have to get like some big bad guys like robbing all the banks or breaking all the buildings, or just Doc Ock is loose in New York,
because this movie is actually about the sort of like plight of the MCU, or like the creative crisis of the MCU. What happens then is all of the characters and the themes become representative of this corporate crisis. So you can't even like cheer for like comic book heroes in this movie, because when you're cheering for the comic book heroes, all you're doing is cheering for the regeneration of this massive corporate film franchise. And that's always true with every, but they make
why are
it
they
so
telling us?
they make it so
Right.
transparent. It takes all of the fun out of a comic book movie. This is one of the most like cynical manipulations of an audience I've ever seen on a screen, this movie, because Deadpool and Wolverine's central message is that the MCU is bankrupt creatively, thematically, character-wise. Deadpool is like thinks he's gonna like save it, and then other like, but the whole message of the movie is like MCU is like stuck. We're in like a rut, right? But instead of being like honest about this confession and coming up with good movie ideas, they confess to it in order to get ahead of their own decline and monetize that decline as a way of regenerating themselves into this whole new phase. The MCU with this movie is literally monetizing its own emptiness. Deadpool and Wolverine is the ninth circle of late-stage capitalist hell. It is the snake eating itself. It is the completion of the vicious cycle. It is the angry revenge of a corporation that has no ideas beyond its own perpetuation. It is like the fury. Remember when we like couldn't get Dianne Feinstein to like retire and she had to die?
I do.
And like we barely got Joe Biden to retire. This is like the energy coming out of the MCU right now is just this like immovable, like massive, powerful edifice that is like in halfway down. It's halfway in a state of collapse, and it refuses to collapse, and it is figuring out ways to like monetize its half collapse in order to prop itself up again for another 20 years. Everything has a life cycle. It's fine that things like reach an end and then we have to come up with new ideas. New ideas are great, but this movie has no new ideas. It just has like this clinging to itself as the only like possible future. I'm sick of the fucking Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm sick of it.
All right, here's what I liked. I think I already said my nice thing, which was I like Deadpool 1.
I'm very glad that Wesley Snipes got a paycheck.
Okay.
Long overdue. Long overdue.
All right, a couple errant notes. I agree with Brett. Number one, okay, rated R, Deadpool's really violent. Like, this movie wasn't violent. Like, I know there was a lot of like gunshot noises sometimes, but none of the violence landed. Violence in movies, like in order for it to be impactful, has to have like stakes and or pain at the other side. Neither Deadpool nor Wolverine can like get hurt and or die. And none of the action sequences were set up to be super impactfully enjoyed, except maybe the opening credit sequence.
There's no tension in the fights because neither Deadpool or Wolverine experience pain.
I know.
Or they experience pain,
but
they can't be mortally wounded. And so it's literally, Joe, you did the like impression of it before. It's literally just like every fight scene is just like a gun to your head and a knife to your side, and it's just like
they go, ow. Okay. Also, like, wasn't sorry to like be always on, but just to say it, like,
don't apologize.
Wasn't sexy. Like one of the things about one of the things there wasn't even like the thought of sexiness except Hugh Jackman's body at the end, I guess. But even that, it's not fun. Like Deadpool 1, there was that whole lovely like romantic chemistry thing with the woman from what's that woman's name? I forget her name. She's a good actor.
Baccarin.
Thank you very much. The Marina Baccarin, Ryan Reynolds like chemistry thing was so great in Deadpool 1, and it also added the fact that Deadpool has sexual elements into it. But now that it's the Disneyfication of Deadpool, folks, sad day. More notes. Emma Corrin played the bad guy. The bad guy, this is classic Marvel Universe stuff. Not a threat. Like, don't understand. Like, they have all these Marvel bad guys. They have infinite power.
Yeah.
The end of the world is always what the hero is trying to prevent. Like, the end of all of time and space is what's at stake in this movie. You feel none of it. You never have in a lot of these Marvel movies.
Have you forgotten the concept of kryptonite? Like, one of the key aspects in superhero movies is vulnerability. This movie was just one character after another who is incapable of experiencing any sort of mortal wound, just like going at each other with no risk. Because, again, these movies at this point are not about a like they're not about a singular movie. Everything is thought of in terms of these massive sort of corporate machinations over the course of multiple movies. And so they can never put they never put characters in any sort of real danger. They never want you to experience any sort of tension because they want you to think of these characters as just always around, always existing, always omnipresent. And that kills like any inherent tension in any of these movies. I sat there through every fight scene, which by the way are like expertly choreographed and shot in their way. But the problem is the central characters just can't, there's no stakes because they can't be hurt. And so like there's no tension in the movie. You sit there bored.
They weren't expert in the excuse me, but they were boring. They weren't cool.
Boring.
Okay, so the first opening credit scene has Deadpool using Wolverine's skeleton as a weapon to kill all these guys in a violent fashion while Bye 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 NSYNC plays. Okay, so I'm sitting there.
That was okay.
I'm in an IMAX movie theater, and I'm spending 2 hours of my life seeing Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, I want it to be funny. Like, I want it to be good. I know I'm not going to love it. I know I'm probably going to roll my eyes a lot, but like I have to sit there and watch it. Like I am rooting for every movie we see. So at first I'm like, okay, you know what? This is kind of bringing it. Like Bye Bye Bye, and you know what? I'm starting to remember. I'm not. Oh, Deadpool is like, some of those lines they kind of make me crack up. I was thinking, okay, but they do then. It's diminishing returns the entire movie across every facet. Deadpool's little comments, constant and undying, and become less and less funny over time, and it just atrophies and dies in front of you. This fight sequence set to like an upbeat song that provides like an anachronism. They do this for every single unimpactful fight sequence in the movie, and it is really hard to watch.
By the time we got to
now they're fighting and they're playing like a virgin. Now they're fighting and they're playing like Grease.
The Grease one,
isn't that a funny?
By the time we got to the fight
a happy
scene,
song paired with violence, isn't that funny? It's like stop.
By the time we got to the fight scene in the Honda Odyssey, scored to, I can't remember what fucking Grease song it was, but a song from Grease, I was like, this is, you know what? It's like, it's kind of depressing that this movie like wasn't written by AI, because it feels like this sort of AI jukebox of a movie where it's like, we put in these like these sort of cultural signifiers, then you've picked the specifics and then just cycle it 8 times.
Weird.
It's depressing that this was not written by AI, but in fact was written by 5 different people, as it shows you in the opening credits. And it made me think that the reason that AI is ultimately going to like crush human creativity and like take over is not because it's like better and smarter than humans, but because it's going to trick humans into like competing with AI, or it's like humans are like coming towards AI and thinking in the same way. Humans think more and more in terms of like algorithms and like focus tested algorithms and marketing and demographics and all of this stuff, instead of just being creative like M. Night Shyamalan does when he comes up with a movie.
Philly Zone.
And I think that this movie was like reminding me of like, this is why AI is going to win. Not because humans are just like, it's like human creativity versus AI, but because humans are just going to become more and more like AI. And then AI is going to win that battle every day of the week, because AI is better at being AI than humans are at being AI. It's one of the thoughts I had. I was just like sitting there in this screening thinking of things.
My least favorite cameo was Chris Evans. Wow. Just retire from acting if you're not into it, fucker. You're so unfunny. Weird. Best cameo, Henry Cavill did a little Wolverine.
I always like seeing Cavill.
You're never not going to put Cavill up there.
Snipes and Cavill won it 1A, 1B.
Snipes, I was happy for he got the paycheck. Sad because I wanted to stand up and go, just make Blade 4 with Snipes. Why not?
And also, why is Snipes not getting a cut of these Deadpool movies? Blade is as we've said this way back when on Weekend at Bergman's, that Blade is really the big, before Iron Man, Blade is like the first big Marvel movie. Blade really creates the possibility of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And if it had been the template for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we'd be having a lot more fun this whole time with all these movies.
Preach.
Snipes should be getting a cut of every one of these damn movies.
Channing Tatum was funny in this movie. And then finally, here's something else I want to say nice about the movie. This Hugh Jackman character.
You like Hugh?
Dude, this guy is so good. Hugh Jackman Wolverine is in this like real fucking unfunny stinker. He is so game and he brings so much presence and talent. There's like 3 parts where Wolverine has to give like a dumb, sad speech where he sort of, brings the pathos to the film. And each one, Hugh Jackman kind of like knocks out of the park. He has so much like in his face and in his eyes, and he's bringing so much to the character, and he's funny. I'm just like, this guy is incredible, and he looks amazing. And I know if he can do the boy from Oz all by himself, if I asked him to. I mean, I love that guy. I love you, Hugh. Thank you very much for being great at acting all the time, even in Deadpool and Wolverine. So I just wanted to end Deadpool and Wolverine on a nice note, which is Hugh Jackman is a movie star for a reason. It's because the guy's a fucking movie star.
I want to end Deadpool and Wolverine by talking about a specific type of guy that is the opposite of Hugh Jackman, who I also love. Obviously I'm talking to Ryan Reynolds. I am also talking again to John Krasinski. I'm talking to Chris Pratt. And you know what? I'm even talking to Bradley Cooper. I'm throwing you into
careful,
this.
Brad.
I am talking to this
Careful.
type of guy that is taking over Hollywood. I mean, between these 4 guys, think of all the fucking VO work Chris Pratt gets. Think of Ryan Reynolds has the 3 biggest R-rated movies of openings of all time. Krasinski's got If and Quiet Place, both in the top 15 of the box office worldwide this year. Bradley Cooper is like the Oscar. He's like the critically acclaimed member of this group. But I am talking to a specific type of guy, and these 4 guys epitomize what I'm talking about. These highly competent, industry-savvy, impossibly wealthy, perfectly coiffed mediocrities, mediocre, medium-ass talents. These are not A-listers. These are our A-listers. These are mediocrities. These bros for whom success is a foregone conclusion and the movie just becomes a medium for them to exercise their alpha disguised as a beta shtick, and then we all pay up for it like suckers. I bet the fucking Property Brothers loved Deadpool. Fuck Ryan Reynolds. Fuck John Krasinski. Fuck Bradley Cooper. Fuck Chris Pratt. You're so boring. You're all so boring. Will we never be free of your fucking reign of mediocrity? When does this end? When do movie stars come back?